So this is my video from Snetterton 300 this weekend, another triple header. So yeah, straight into race one, starting second. Probably the most bizarre qualifying I've ever had, where it started raining just as we went out, and yeah, it was wet, kind of on a different corner every lap. It was absolutely bizarre, and for most of the qualifying session, I was absolutely nowhere, but I just kind of stayed out and. Yeah, it was so strange. Kind of by the end, it dried again, but you're just having to kind of recalibrate your understanding of the track every time, because it wasn't just that it was wet and it was drying. It was kind of wet on a different corner, and then the corner that had you off the last time was dry the next time round and all that. So I managed to put a it wasn't fast, but it was kind of fast enough to get up a few spots and get to second. John Lister pipped me by 900ths. So yeah, great from him on his debut to get a pole in tricky conditions. So yeah, starting second here. Obviously, aim is to try and get in the lead and get away. But I chose not to test this weekend, and as I found out in this first dry race, the car had quite a lot of limitations that I wasn't really expecting. Um, Now I didn't test because I was trying to protect the car. I've had a lot of gear selector problems, so replaced all them, new clutch, all sorts. I didn't just bring the car as it was at Anglesey. So yeah, changed loads of stuff. Um, but as I found out during the weekend, the problems are more terminal inside the gearbox, and the part that's been failing was more of a symptom than an actual uh, than the failure point itself. Um, so in this race, even just after the qualifying session, I had poor shifts in this race. Not horrendous, so I didn't expect. These parts that have been wearing out, they've not been wearing out as fast as obviously this problem inside the gearbox has really come to a head in the last few months, because I was wearing them out pretty much every race now at this point, instead of every other weekend. Um, so yeah, this race, as you see, I do struggle with the box a little bit, but it's more struggling with the setup. But to be honest, I'm really just trying to amass some reasonable points. But I had a plan, and the plan didn't work out. No one's got a crystal ball, and I probably should have took the engine out sooner. But here we go. Good start, and you can't tell, but John's stalled. So it was his first race starting one of these cars. So easily done. So I'm into the lead quite comfortably here. But as I say, this is kind of the first time actually pushing the car um, in a properly dry condition compared to qualifying, which was just weird. I didn't really get a feel for the car in qualifying at all. So obviously all you can really do here is just try and be as tidy as possible. See if I can build some sort of gap. And for the first couple of laps, I did manage to get a second or so to the car behind, which is Clint Newman. Yeah, just trying to get a feel for it. I mean, you never have much grip on these kind of opening laps anyway, with the tyres being cold. But as they heated up, yeah, I just couldn't really push very hard. The car was quite unstable. But as I say, the whole point of me not testing, and like I say, I have to live by the sword and die by the sword. I had a plan and it didn't work out. The whole point was that I'd put all these new parts in the engine, but they're all parts that you can replace externally. As I know now, because this is a few days after, and I've actually stripped the gearbox. The gearbox is quite nasty inside, so. Yeah, like I say, the part that's been failing is really more of an indication of what's going on inside than what than just kind of, oh, the selector's worn, I need to pop a new one in, because they're not really parts that tend to go wrong, all being well. But anyway, back to this race in particular. I'm just trying to get a bit of a wriggle on and see what kind of lap times I can do. I mean, I know what times other people have done because I was at the track on Friday, kind of watching people go around and what have you. I'm still certain that if I tested on Friday, the car would have probably been even worse because it'd have been another day's wear on the box where I might not have even got 2 finishes out of it. So the real oversight from me was not rebuilding the gearbox probably 2 months ago, or more than that. Because this is a problem that I've had for a while, but it's been much more infrequent than this. Yeah, whereas just recently it's kind of really the wear's obviously accelerated internally. Yeah, I should have really pulled the engine before Anglesey. These triple headers are obviously an opportunity to amass a lot of points, and they've probably been my worst 2 weekends, which is the polar opposite of what you need. Because, like I say, at every meeting this year, I've had reasonable pace and driving-wise reasonable consistency, but I've had a lot of reliability issues, which I can't really put down to anything other than myself. It's not through lack of effort. It's probably just that I've misinterpreted some of the signs. But I'm not too proud to say that there's still things that I'm still learning. I've got the kind of setup sort of stuff mostly nailed. There's things that obviously you think, oh, I'll try that for the next weekend and that might work or whatever, but I'm good at reacting to things when I know I've got a problem, but when you don't test, you don't really know you've got a problem until you go out. The idea being this weekend that with 3 races, each qualifying position is set by your fastest lap in the race anyway, so the idea was I would kind of build through the weekend and just try and get some points. Didn't really care if I won a race or every race or whatever. It was more about some consistency in protecting the car, but it didn't work out. So anyway, I'm really just going through all this because it's a brain dump for me. It's cathartic. It gives a bit of context to the weekend, and also there's not really much to talk about at the moment because I'm driving around on my own, but you will see pretty soon that Clint is gaining on me, and I think quite soon a few kind of poor shifts and kind of driving inconsistencies, just struggling to kind of really be smooth with the way the car was set up. It lets him in. And in this first race, there's no doubt about it, he was faster than me anyway. But normally I'm quite comfortable with people following me. Just because someone's up your arse, it doesn't mean that they're going to overtake you. But didn't really have the tools to battle in this one. And as you'll see, when I tried to fight back, it went quite badly wrong. So yeah, these lap times are not particularly good by any stretch of the imagination. Snetterton's a long lap, and obviously if you've not got the right feeling with the car, that is compounded in and out of every corner, and there's a lot of corners. It's a 2 minute or should be sub 2 minute lap. So a few kind of setup issues can, on a track like this, it can easily be the difference between a second and a half a lap. It's not like one of those things where you tweak it. Say at Brands Hatch you make a tweak that feels amazing, but you only get 2/10 here. It can be 5 times that or more. And obviously long straights, you'd be carrying more speed onto the straight if you get on the power earlier and all that sort of stuff. So whilst I'm not happy with the car, I am still leading the race, and at this point, I'm probably thinking, well, maybe the plan's paying off. The car doesn't feel great, but I can make some changes after this race and see, where I get to in the second race. Yeah, just not really attacking, not got confidence in the front end. And I just remember thinking that the gearbox felt really notchy. I was having to kind of really think about the timing on my shifts, and just using a bit too much brain power up on things that should just be second nature, to be honest. Obviously, there's a lot of dust and crap down on the track, so a lot of the guys were testing Thursday and Friday, so obviously I didn't do any. Both those test days were 400 quid a piece, so some people had done 800 quid worth of testing, some had done 400. I'd done £0 worth of testing. There's a bad shift there, but yeah, the track changes a lot anyway, so sometimes the testing you just end up kind of chasing your tail anyway. I believe a lot of the guys were flying on Thursday, then slower on Friday, and then slower on Saturday, and that is often the case. That was crap, but I've actually managed to get a reasonable exit. I've gone way off there. That'll have been one of a few track limits warnings logged. Clint is much closer to me now. That was poor again. Offline there. And he's forced onto the marbles there. But anyway, I mean, like I say, I don't need to win the race, but obviously I want to. So I'm obviously going to try and get back up behind him and see if I can get him back. I do get a track limits penalty in this race, which I probably can't argue about. I was pretty ragged and put wheels offline a couple of times. And yeah, you can't argue really. I mean, I don't know where there's a number of pressure pads around Snetterton, so there's nothing to argue. If you get a track limits penalty, you deserve it. I don't know if any of them came from marshals reporting it as well, but I half expected it anyway, to be honest. So it was obviously absolutely awful. Just waiting a lot on the throttle, not just the car's not really hooking up at either end. Getting a bit of a distant tow here. Just see if I can have a run at him on the kind of second half of the lap. So we've gone through their kind of line of stern. He had a bit of a moment on the way in, I had a bit of a moment on the way out, but now I've got a pretty good toe. So going for a move here, and yeah, I mean, I consider that a bit of a chop, but at the same time, had the car been better set up and more stable, I probably wouldn't have actually spun from it. So, you know, I wasn't happy at the time, but it's kind of, would I have done any differently? I don't know. But the thing is, it's kind of the worst thing is the spin, because the spin now has basically made the win completely out of reach, and the spin is, you know, a cause of, yeah, evasive action, but more than that, you know, the car's not set up to allow me to actually do what I just tried to do. So, you know, but I still tried it anyway. So I'd have been happy enough with second, but unfortunately, because I got a track limits penalty, the amount of time that I lost now dropping back, plus the track limits penalty, compounded that and put me fourth. So, yeah, still points, you know, that's really kind of what I was hoping for, was just to get some reasonable points this weekend. But yeah, to kind of go from first to fourth is crap, really, because like I say, the penalty on its own, I would have ended up second. You know, the gap was sufficient enough to the guys behind to kind of mean that the penalty wouldn't have really been a big issue, but in the end it was. So, not a great race, but you know, I'll be thankful that I actually finished this one. Again, just really tentative on the throttle. So, you know, I'm already kind of thinking, well, what am I going to change for the second race? Now, because I had issues with gear shift, but you know, the parts are all new and I've never worn them out this quickly, I put it down more. So I found a few kind of angles on the linkage and stuff that I didn't think were optimal, and changed a few things in the linkage that felt nicer. But yeah, I really should have torn into it after this race. So just seeing race two ends really prematurely, because even though I finished this race with all, you know, some selection issues, but all the gears kind of there able to be used, I didn't think that it could possibly have damaged the gear selector as quickly as this, because you know, whilst this is a problem that's been happening, it's never happened this fast. Yeah, I think the fastest it's ever happened is like I've got through 4 sessions on Friday and maybe qualifying in a race, and then had an issue in like the last race on Sunday or something. So I don't really expect it to kind of break within 15-20 minutes worth of running, but that's what happened. So yeah, just finish this one, and then say, even with the penalty, coming fourth wasn't actually, I mean, look at that, it's all over the place. Even with the penalty coming fourth, it's not really the end of the world now, looking back on, you know, at least it was a finish and not a DNF. So for race 2, as I say, I didn't touch anything other than, I mean, I changed a load of stuff kind of gear linkage wise and what have you, to try and improve the action of the shift. And it did feel less notchy, because like I said, I had quite a hot, it didn't feel nice, and I thought that was more the issue. And like I say, just because I'd never worn one out that quickly. But I made a lot of setup changes. Obviously I've been running this car for quite a number of years now, so you know, once I go out and get a feel for how the car's handling, I have quite a good feel for what I need to do, and I made quite a number of changes at both ends of the car, and seemed to work. The car handled well. I mean, as you'll see later on, the car remained unchanged in race 3, and in race 3 it was fast. Wasn't perfect, but it was fast, considerably faster than I'd been all weekend, and I actually set the fastest lap of the weekend in race 3 with the setup exactly the same as it was in this. So now knowing what I know, this is a race that could have gone a lot better being this far up the front. So just waiting for the start. So I'm starting third here. So as I say, like my pace was only good for third anyway. It's just that I got a good start in that first race that I was in the lead. You don't have to be the fastest to win, but anyway, Clint's rolling there before the lights go out. But I've got a half decent start now. I'm just looking to the inside because there's plenty of space and doors closed there. So in covering me off, he's kind of let Rich go round him. There's a bit of contact with those two there, so obviously looking up the inside, but there's not really anywhere to go, and now Dan's got around me. And there's a bad shift, so this race isn't going to last very long, unfortunately. Great start from Rich, by the way, to get there. I think he started 6th or something. So great from him to get around the cars in front. And yeah, and this is what's totally perplexing. You can finish a race on it and then have no gears within 3 corners. So the real problem here is I complete this first lap, and I complete this first lap not very fast from a standing start, and unfortunately, the next race's grid position is set by the previous race's fastest lap, and my fastest lap was not fast. So this is going to mean that race 3 I'm going to be starting plumb last. Like normally I would at least try and stay out and put some sort of half decent lap in, but it got to the point where I couldn't get any gears. It wasn't safe, I had people kind of right up behind me, crawling all over me, so I completed that one lap, and then I cruised around basically and just offline and let everyone through. So this is now lining up in assembly for race 3, right at the back. So long wait for everyone else to go out in front of me here. And I don't think I've ever started last before, even when I was a novice. I don't think I've ever had the misfortune of being this far back. So I was thinking to myself, I really could do with a really good start here. And then when I rolled up to the line and realised what was ahead of me, a good start would be meaningless because there's actually nowhere to go. Obviously, the stagger of the cars is such that there are no gaps. There's nowhere to launch yourself forward, really. So I had to kind of change tack quite quickly and just think, actually, I don't really want to launch myself that well. I just need to basically just drive off the start, because all I'm going to do is launch myself straight up someone's ass. So I'm not rushing out because everyone's going to be doing burnouts and stuff and then lining up. So I might as well take the one advantage there is of starting at the back here and probably have the warmest tyres. But as I say, really, I mean, it made no difference anyway, because a good launch would just put you right up the chuff for someone that you couldn't get past anyway. So yeah, just waiting to be lined up. So in between the race of epic failure and this one, I didn't change the setup one bit. So the car is now set up based on a number of changes that I made based on the feel from Saturday, where I just thought, I've got a number of problems here, and I had to think about how all the adjustments would work together. So, I was making changes at both ends of the car, quite significant ones. But like I say, I have it's not my first rodeo with stuff like that, and people laugh at me for making more than one change at a time. But obviously, when you understand what your bars and your springs and your bump stops and your damping do, you can understand how all that blends together. And I don't necessarily need to just do one thing at a time, because essentially that'll get me nowhere. I need something drastic. I need it to be drastically better to have any hope in hell of you know of improvement. And I would say that in race two, the one lap I did, um, it felt better, which was encouraging. So I just thought I'll leave that alone and just try and repair this as much as possible. So even though it's got a new selector in it, I'm not sure it'll finish the race, but we'll give it a good go. Now, as you can see there, straight away, like there's nowhere to go, so I had to take to the grass. So starting 24th there with 15 minutes, because these are the three races of 15 minutes long, these sprint races. So that gives you 5 minutes less to try and do anything. So I can't be wasting any time here. You'll see some of the moves are not dangerous by any means, because I've got the thing totally under control, but I'm not kind of waiting 3 or 4 corners to craft the move. I need to get through people as quickly as possible and try and race my way forward. These are the sorts of races that can win or lose you a championship. Because like I say, what I need a car to be reliable. And this race it was. Surprise, surprise. So that move on Naeem there, obviously I was coming in hot. He turned in a little bit, but I came in hot. He apologised to me after, and I apologised to him. So it's 50-50. And I mean, not to be funny. I mean, these guys probably expected me to be coming through, so some of them were looking out for me, not letting me past, but at least kind of being mindful, as I would be in their position. So made up a good few spots already. Definitely want to get through these MKs as quickly as possible. They're in their own race, so I don't want to ruin their race, but I also don't want to be that courteous that I'm going to sit behind them and ruin my own race. So got one of them there. Obviously, they don't corner as fast as we do, and they have much less efficient aerodynamics, so should be able to get through them fairly easily. And it's not really of any benefit to them to put up a big fight either, because that could potentially ruin their race as well. So we've cleared them, and I don't know what position we're in at the moment, to be honest. 2 cars have gone off there, which is a bit of an help. Stuff that fell off in front, or skirmishes, contact and what have you. That's part of it. You need to keep your nose clean. But to be honest, the car felt good in this race. I was fast. There was about 3 laps from the end that I was actually driving around on my own, so there was time to keep working my way forward if those cars were still in the race. So I don't think it made any difference, to be honest. I'm not doing them a disservice, but I think barring probably the incident between Clint and Rich, that's what put me on the podium. But I reckon I'd have got up to 4th off my own back anyway, at least. But anyway, yeah. So pushing on here, catching Charlie and Colin. And Charlie's going to exit stage left in a second. I think he had a wishbone failure. Colin's lucky that he wasn't any closer. So get on the back of Colin now, see if we can get by him. Now, not only is the gearbox working all right here, it's actually the feeling of the shifter is much nicer, and that's what I was talking about before. Is that the changes that I made to all the shift linkage and stuff before race 2. I am feeling the benefit of that now. Nearly dropped it off there going round Colin. So I am feeling the benefit of that, but so funnily enough, this was a brand new selector for this race that I fitted after race 1, where I didn't even do a bloody lap. And I can say this now because I've already got the engine apart. It is already damaged after this one race of 15 minutes. So that's the thing, is I'd basically be having to put a new one in every bloody race to get a result this weekend. So I think, crystal ball aside, like whatever I did, I would have had problems this weekend. The only thing that would have rectified it is if I had a time machine and went back and took the engine out, a month ago or whatever, or 2 months ago, because it screwed Anglesey up for me as well. So I've thrown a significant number of points away this season with stuff like this, and there's other races that I should have won and haven't for whatever reason. So we'll have to see how the points shake out after this weekend, especially when I'm looking at drops. The only good thing is when you DNF, you don't actually drop many points. Like a lot of the time when I've been consistent, the drops make quite a big difference when your worst score is still quite a good score, if that makes sense. But certainly don't really want to be getting any more DNFs if I can help it. So picking up a toe from Paul. One of the changes that I made to the car was, I'm not going to go into detail, but I made quite a significant change on the front end that allowed me to push the car much harder on the brakes, which is something that I was struggling with in race 1, and that was like a game changer for me in this race, because I could attack again. So you might see some kind of probing lunges, but a lot of it, to be honest, it's not a lunge. It's more that I'm trying to run my own line than run the car in front's line. I don't want to. If I can brake stronger than the car in front, what I don't really want to do is wind up completely up their arse. If they see me coming and they move over, well, that's on them. I'm not trying to kind of overtake them on every single corner. That one, yeah, it was close, but I had it under control again. The thing is, like, I've always got kind of a bit more of ability to just put the anchors on a little bit more if I need to avoid anything. So that's what I did there. You might have a different view on it, but there's not at any point where I've gone into someone completely, gone under someone out of control. So yeah, again, because the car was so good on the brakes there, I managed to roll in with a bit more speed than Paul and take to the outside, but take the inside for the next corner. Unfortunately, kind of defending against me, Tom's now got away, so I need to get onto the back of Tom and see if I can get by him. Tom was driving absolutely fantastically this weekend. having not raced for at least a year, maybe more. I think it's more. In a Mittel that, you know, he had a Mittel before, but this is a completely different car at the end of the day that he's renting. And really good pace. I think he was in the 59s, which, you know, only a handful of people managed to get in the 59s this weekend. So really impressed with him. And he's real Jonathan in as well. Which is the black and gold Mattel. Now you can see just going out the corner there that the leaders are not actually that far away, considering that I started all that way down. You know, I'm really not that far away. I no hope in hell of catching them, obviously, but you know, they're not too far away, which is encouraging. The car felt good, and I'm getting, you know, a bit of feedback here from kind of the gaps that I'm seeing to the leaders and the way that I'm coming through, that, you know, I'm probably, I've got to be within, you know, the fastest few drivers on track, which is kind of, it's nice and it's a good silver lining after such a bad weekend, but also quite, I don't know, I'm a bit of a glass half empty kind of guy, and it just makes me think, well, you know, what could or should have been this weekend. But as I say, if I tested, I could have got on top of the handling quicker, but I probably would have done more damage to the gearbox. And yeah, so Jonathan's gone. I was looking forward to having a bit of a battle with him, but he's sent himself off there. It's easily done. Obviously, you're flying round Coram at, you know, 110, 105 mile an hour, bleeding the speed off, and it can be tricky to kind of straighten the car back out and get the speed down to get around that last corner, whilst keeping everything under control. So it's, you know, it's not easy to do. And these cars, whilst they look like, you know, the sports cars with loads of downforce, they don't have loads of downforce, and they don't have loads of grip. They're a proper challenge to drive, and you know, like I say, that is easily done. So I'm actually probably a bit closer to the leaders now than I was the lap before. So again, you know, encouraging, but I don't think that I've got any hope in hell of getting up to them. So really now I just want to try and see what I can actually get out of the car. This is the first kind of point where I've had any clear track in front of me to try and put some sort of lap time in, or even get a feel. You know, I'm kind of learning about the car every lap, because obviously, you know, I've not tested, and the thing is obviously different to how it was in race 1 and race 2. I did a lap, so I'm still kind of trying to figure out what its limitations are and where I can push it. So you can see Rich is off track there, so they had a coming together with Clint battling for the lead. Just put Dan into the lead now, so I think Dan was kind of sitting back and watching it play out to a certain degree, so probably fairly sensible from him. So now Dan's leading, Clint's second, and I've inherited third, but you know, obviously I'll take that. Bit of a gift, but there aren't really any gifts when you're starting last, and it's about the only gift that I'm going to get this weekend, so I certainly don't feel lucky. And they're both closer again. Obviously Clint's closer because he's had an incident, but even Dan is actually kind of closer than he was the lap before. I still know that I'm not going to catch them. I think this is the second to last lap. So it would have been interesting if it was 5 minutes longer, but it probably still would have been a stretch, to be honest. But yeah, you know, a bit of attrition and people kind of coming off and what have you. But I'm on for a podium here, and the car feels good. So now I'm thinking, kind of, you know, can I get that extra point for fastest lap, and at least kind of lay a bit of a marker down and remind everyone that I did actually attend this race weekend. You know, some of the time, like these races, the only way you can look at them is it's an opportunity to kind of shine a little bit. You know, at the end of the day, it's a third place. Third place on paper doesn't set the world alight, but you know, everyone knows what I've had to do here, and it's not easy to do coming from that far back. And you know, need some sort of silver lining to stop me stewing over the disappointment on my 5-hour drive home. So 59.4 there, which is probably about a second faster than, I think 1.1 seconds actually faster than I did in race 1. So I'm just pushing on, see if I can better that a little bit. I won't say by any stretch of the imagination that the car was like perfect at this point, but I'm quite happy with the setup changes that I, in inverted commas, guessed at. So at least it kind of was a bit of vindication there that maybe I do actually know what I'm doing, in some way, shape or form. I mean, looking back at this, you know, I'm still not really attacking too hard. You know, there's lots of areas that I'm thinking, you know, the car could be better, my driving could be better, but this is going to be the fastest lap of the weekend and the fastest lap of this race, which is an extra point, which, you know, is very, very welcome. I need, it's just what I needed, really. And as I said before, these are the sorts of races where, you know, you can only do your best and you can only work your way forward. I mean, I say only, I could have easily just had a massive crash with a load of people in the rear to midfield. So, you know, there's a lot of jeopardy. I think if I had to go on with the car in bits after the weekend I've had, that would have been it. I probably wouldn't even bothered trying to finish the season. I'd have been that fed up. It would depend how bad it was, obviously, but you know, I don't have unlimited funds to repair the car every 5 minutes. So that's that 59 flat, more or less. I think that was 2.5 tenths or something faster than the kind of second fastest lap of the race. And yeah, a very, very challenging weekend. Lots of fun had off track, but you know, I come here for a bit more than than that, and you know, I can't say that it was a success, but that race was definite kind of damage limitation, and even though the first race didn't go as well as it could have done, it was, you know, it's points that I needed. Race 2, not good, but I can always drop that score, but I don't want to be kind of picking any more DNFs up, really, if I can help it. But yeah, quite proud of that. You know, there's a lot of kind of drives like this where your back's up against the wall. They're the ones that kind of bring the best out in you and kind of show what you can do. So, you know, thankfully the car held together. Hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.